Good old Mohammed. In Islam, Muhammad is considered a person who has reached perfection. He embodies the divine attributes of God, and Muslims consider him the ultimate role model. Surah 33 verse 21 is just one of many pieces of text that sets this out. Ibn Arabi, a Sufi mystic philosopher and poet, also helped establish this idea. The situation in Europe today is as if Muhammad was still alive. His strict followers of Islam are behaving exactly the same way as Muhammad did, because he was a criminal and he was a warlord. And if Muhammad was still around and he behaved the same way as he did in the 7th century, he'd rack up a pretty impressive list of criminal convictions, just like myself. Let's have a look at some of them. Rape and molestation of a minor. In the Bukhari Hadith, volume 5, book 58, 234 and 235, it states that Muhammad was engaged to Aisha when she was 6 years old. Yes, 6. He consummated that marriage, or he raped her, as most people would say, when she was just 9. In the UK, the molestation and rape of a minor results in the prosecution under the Sexual Offences Act. If convicted, Muhammad could face life imprisonment. Physical assault and child abuse. What a guy. Muhammad struck his wife Aisha in the chest. He beat up her child, causing her great pain. Under UK law, Muhammad would be charged under the Offences Against the Persons Act, which carries between 2 and 7 years imprisonment. He could also be charged under the Child and Young Persons Act 1933, with a sentence of up to 10 years imprisonment. Sex slaves. After beheading the men of Banu Qurayza, Muhammad took women and young girls as sex slaves. Being charged with sex slavery is punishable by up to life imprisonment. What a guy! Along with the charge of sex slavery, Muhammad would also face charges of rape, which is also punishable by up to life imprisonment. And by the way, if any of the followers of Islam deny this, there are many other stories that involve Muhammad raping, murdering and enslaving. Sophia. She was the daughter of a Jewish tribal chief. She was married to a man called Kanana. Upon learning that Kanana had hidden his treasures, Muhammad instructed his men to burn him with a hot iron rod, set fire to his stomach until he revealed his secrets. His men then beheaded Kanana. Muhammad took his wife, Sophia, that night as a sex slave. This story is explained in the biography of Muhammad by Ibn Ishaq. That's one of the most recognised biographies of the Prophet Muhammad in the world. This brings us to torture. Yes, torture. Under Article 3 of the Human Rights Act, torture is punished severely. It has also been illegal for centuries under English common law and would likely result in a life sentence. Robbery. By torturing Kanana and stealing his treasures, Muhammad would also receive a charge of robbery. Once again, English law says that a person guilty of robbery or of an assault with intent to rob shall on conviction on indictment be liable to life imprisonment. Terrorism. This is the point, terrorism. Muhammad promoted violence against all those who created fitna, which by its Quranic definition is disbelief in Muhammad and Allah. You know, every non-Muslim. In the Bukhari Hadith, it shows that Muhammad instructed people to fight all people unless they believed in Allah and that Muhammad is Allah's apostle. By ordering his followers to become terrorists, Muhammad would be charged under the Terrorism Act of the year 2000. The Act states that terror is a threat that is designed to intimidate the public or a section of the public, and that the threat is made for the purpose of advancing political, religious or ideological causes. Once again, this means life imprisonment for Mo, planning and organising assassinations. Muhammad also ordered the murder of Al-Ashraf, a Jewish poet who wrote insulting verses about Islam. Muhammad asked his followers, "Who will rid me of this man?" which resulted in his people stabbing Al-Ashraf to death. The story can be found in Bukhari, volume 5, book 59, number 369. By conspiring to commit murder, Muhammad would face yet another life sentence under section 1A and 2A of the Criminal Law Act 1977. Well done, Mo. Top guy. Mass murder. Ibn Kathir, one of the most revered and influential Sunni scholars of all time, cites the Quran's chapter 33 and verses 26 to 27 and 9 to 10 as explaining Muhammad's attack against the Banu Qurayza tribe. Muhammad and his followers beheaded around 800 men and boys. If done today, Muhammad would be in prison for the rest of his life, after being charged for mass murder and potentially even war crimes. Muhammad would serve a life imprisonment sentence for every man he personally killed, and hefty sentences for the lives taken as a result of him instructing his men to do the same. Believe it or not, this is not an exhaustive list. I could spend weeks talking about the crimes committed by Muhammad, but just the ones I've outlined would land the so-called prophet with monumentally large prison sentences. he would be sentenced to a minimum of 12,122 years in prison. This would be a funny statistic if these horrible crimes didn't still affect us today. Muhammad was a criminal warlord who beat and molested children. He beheaded innocent people, he robbed, he pillaged and he raped. And his followers emulate him. It's easy to get emotional and shout, not all Muslims, despite the fact that none of us have ever said that anyway. Yeah? But it's important we look at the facts. The historic texts, the Quran and the Hadiths make it clear that Muhammad committed these crimes. They also make it clear that he was the perfect man. Yes, perfect. And that leaves me with one question for everyone on the left and everyone who opposes us. Do you really believe this doesn't pose a threat to your way of life? Thank you for watching. If you like that and you want to see more, click like and subscribe.